Hi viewers, welcome to Pro Talk Academy. Today I am going to show you how to prepare a thesis report or academic project report. So I will use a sample project, a master's degree project, to demonstrate to you the various things you need to know while preparing your project report. So we have an example here: development of membrane plate and flash shell elements with drilling degrees of freedom in Java. This is a project type 2. This is a structural engineering project title presented by Emeka Femi Ibrahim. This is the name of the student, and this is the range number or registration number of the student. Then here I have a dissertation in the Department of Civil Engineering, Faculty of Engineering, Bayero University, Kano. So is it agric engineering? Is it town and regional planning, building technology? Whatever it is, you replace it here. And the faculty, you now enter the faculty if which your department falls into. Then this is the school. If your school is Federal University of Technology Owerri, is it Imo State University or Ahmadu Bello University, University of Benin? You always put it here. You put it here. Then you can also see what the next line we have here is submitted. It says submitted to the School of Postgraduate Studies, Bayero University, in partial fulfillment of the requirement for the award of the degree of Masters of Engineering and in Civil Engineering structural option. So this is what we mean here is, if you're an undergraduate student, you will not need to submit this to the postgraduate school. You're submitting to your department. So, but this is a postgraduate work, so you're submitting to the School of PG or Postgraduate School, School of Postgraduate Studies. So here you enter the name of your university or your school: Federal Polytechnic Nekede or Federal University of Technology Owerri, or is it Ahmadu Bello University, in partial fulfillment for the requirement for the award of the degree of, if it is first degree or HND or ND, you replace it there in whatever department your program falls into. And then what options, if it is at master's level, you have specialization, area of specialization, that's where you, or your specialty, that is what you enter here. But if you are an undergraduate, and that is the date of submission. So this project is submitted on this particular date, which is March. So the next thing we need to look at is the declaration page. So this is where the student or the researcher will need to make his declaration. You can see, I hereby declare that this work, development of membrane plate and flash shell element with drilling degrees of freedom in Java, is the product of my own research efforts undertaken under the supervision of Engineer Dr. I.E. Ume, and has not been presented elsewhere for the award of degree of or certificate. All sources have been duly distinguished and appropriately acknowledged. So this is where the researcher is expected to sign. You can see Emeka Francis. You can see here Emeka Femi Ibrahim with his reg number. You sign. So next, what we need to look at is the certification page. So under the certification page, it will contain a certification from the people who will sign this page. Like here, you can see what we have here. This is to certify that the research work of this thesis and the subsequent preparation of the thesis by Emeka Femi Ibrahim, the candidate or the researcher, with page number, which you can see here, we are carried out under my supervision. So these people, these signatories we have here, are certifying that this project was truly conducted under their supervision and under their guidance. So the first person to appear here is your supervisor, Engineer Dr. I.E. Ume. So whoever is your supervisor, you replace the name with his own name, and then he will append his signature here with the date. And the next person we need to look at is Dr. S.C. Adebola. This is the head of department. In your department, you replace this with the name of your head of department, and then he will also sign. And the next person there is the Dean, Faculty of Engineering, Engineer Dr. I.E. Tanko. The date will also be, he will also sign and append his dates. Then the next person here we need to look at is the Dean, School of Postgraduate Studies, Professor O.S.A. Abdullahi. So here you can replace this with the Dean of your own School of Postgraduate Studies. But if you are an undergraduate, this section is not required or relevant, so you remove it. So the next person we look at here is Professor H.C. Agenam. This is the supervisor, so he will also append the external supervisor. You replace this name with your own external supervisor, and then he will append his signature and also enter the date of appending the signature. So that is the content, the certification page. So the next thing we need to look at is the acknowledgement. Under the acknowledgement, here you are expected to appreciate those who helped you or whose efforts contributed to the success or to the success of your project. So here you can start with appreciating God, appreciating your parents, your supervisor, your HOD, or any other lecturer who in one way or the other played a vital role towards the success of your project. So the next thing is dedication. Here you have to dedicate this to someone who is important to you, or to God, whoever is important to you. So the next one is table of content. Here you have the table of content, the various sections of your work, and their respective pages. So you do that. Then another thing you have to look at, apart from that, you look at the abstract. Here the abstract is just like a skeletal part of what your work entails. So the abstract, you're trying to give a kind of a brief overview of what your entire project work is all about and the results obtained from the project work. So under the next section we have to look at is chapter 1. So under the chapter 1, the first thing we consider is the background of the study. And the background of the study, what we're looking at are the people whose previous work, or the previous researchers who laid the foundation for what you are researching on. Because anything or any topic you're working on cannot be entirely new. Even if the topic is new, the concept may not be entirely new. So even if the concept is new, then something must have prompted or must have given rise to the ideas you got, or what inspired the project topic, are the background. Because for instance, you cannot have a page or worked on something which inspired what you are now consolidating upon. Because if you take a look at most projects, you always have recommendation at the end of the project, and that recommendation is trying to encourage a prospective researcher to continue from where the previous one stopped. So all the work presented by the previous researcher forms the background, or previous researchers form the background of your work. So any improvement you're making is now a consolidation to the previous background to the study. So what we mean by background is the initial foundation laid out by previous researchers, or initial technology existing which inspired your present work. The statement of the problem. So here you are expected to state what the problem is all about, because every research project is expected to address a problem. So if it does not solve any problem, or if it is not a solution to any problem, existing problem in the field of study or in your field of study, it means your project is useless. So your project must address a problem. So, and this is where you will state the problem. And how do you state the problem? You will have to describe what led to the problem, or what made it a problem, and how it will be addressed, because you are stating the problem. So here you can see the researcher was able to demonstrate that a previous researcher called Kansara in the year 2004 was able to develop some finite elements using the procedure prescribed by, was able to establish or develop finite elements, but using the procedure prescribed by Nikishkov in 2010. The recommendations that were made by Kansara can be improved on using Nikishkov's method in order to build more finite elements, because to build higher finite elements like quad 4 and quad 8, then DKQ4 and DKQ8. So initially the Kansara worked on lower elements, but with the improvement by Nikishkov in 2010, the new researcher Emeka Femi Ibrahim is able to consolidate on Kansara's work using recommendation from Nikishkov to build newer finite elements, which is the statement of the problem. So here the next thing we need to look at is the aim and objectives of the study. So when we are talking about aim of a study, an aim is what goal are you trying to achieve? What general goal are you trying to achieve? Or what general problem are you trying to solve? And when you talk about objectives, what are the steps? What are the procedures you're going to take to arrive at that aim? Because what you always have is a general aim or general goal known as aim, and the objectives cannot be one, because you will use different approaches, or you will take a series of, you will adopt steps towards actualizing that goal. So you can see, like here we have objectives, like specific objective of this study include development of 4 and 8 node isoparametric quadrilateral element quad 4 and quad 8 respectively. Then there are other ones here. There are many. You can see there are about 4 major objectives. So that is what will lead to this researcher achieving his goal or aim. Then the next thing we need to look at is the scope of the study. So that is scope of the study. You are trying to indicate things that you are trying to indicate the boundaries of your project based on the program of study. Is it National Diploma, Higher National Diploma, BENG, BSc, B.Agric, B Architecture? Is it MENG? Is it MSc? Is it Doctor of Philosophy? Name it. So depending on the program or you are into, program of your study, will determine the size or scope of your work. You don't expect ND or National Diploma project to be. We consider where our resources or our ability can be able to carry us. Where are we stopping? This is where we are starting, and this is where we are stopping. So that defines the limitation. So when we talk about justification, we are also looking at a project must have justification, because you will have to provide proof to convince people that your project is going to solve a problem. If your project cannot solve a problem, it has there is no need of investing time and energy into it, or time and money into it, because every project must be justifiable. That project must address a problem. So if that project does not have any reason, because anything can be a project, but if it is not justifiable, if there is no supporting claims, or if that project is not going to be beneficial to humanity or to your field of specialization, then it is useless. And the next thing we have to look at is the literature review. Here we will look at a review of existing works by other authors or other researchers who must have worked on things that are similar to your project work. So those existing knowledge which will back up your work and which will provide a clearer understanding, but the person assessing you may not know exactly what you're doing. They may not have or may not know exactly the results, but because you move from what you know to what you don't know, from known to unknown. So here, under the literature review, you are expected to cite your work. The diagrams are supposed to be labeled, so depending on the topic you are addressing. So the equations are supposed to be numbered. You can see 2.3. You are expected to cite your work properly. Like here we have Krishnamurti, 1987. So this is the author's surname and the year of publication of the article. So after citing a work, you are expected to provide or include it in the reference section of your project work. You will so the chapter 3, under the chapter 3 we have materials and method. We have materials and method, and under materials and method you are going to describe the materials used for the project and also the method adopted, because there may be different kinds of methods which will still lead to similar answer. So you're supposed to outline your material, like if you're working on concrete, you will need to provide list and describe the materials used in production of the concrete, such as cement, the coarse aggregate, the fine aggregate, and water. Then the apparatus or the equipment you use in the work. So materials and method. What method discussed in the literature review are you adopting in order to achieve your aim? So the next thing we need to look at also is, for this work, what we have here is a programming work. So we use the Unified Modeling Language known as UML. So these are called UML diagrams. Some people or some fields may use flowcharts. So, but this is a Java program. So what we make use of is a Unified Modeling Language diagram, that is UML diagram, to illustrate the relationship between the packages and the classes used in developing the program, because this is a Java based program and it uses object oriented programming. So that is why we're making use of a Unified Modeling Language diagram. So you're able to, those objectives you have in chapter 1, they are what will form the headers project. Then the next thing we have to look at is the chapter 4. So under the chapter 4, we are talking about results and discussion. So your chapter 4 is results and discussion. So here we are going to be discussing, or as you can see here, we present the results of the analysis or the experiment, because your chapter 3 may be based on analytical work or experimental work. So whichever one, you're going to present them in chapter 4, and this is where you will analyze the results using statistical tools, because when you are displaying these results, you must display them using the relevant statistical tool like bar charts, graphs, or other statistical tools. You can deploy them to be able to give your listeners or your assessors, your supervisor, a clear view of what you are trying to explain. So after discussing your results, the next thing we look at is conclusion, recommendation. Summarize your work, what you've done, and after that you will have the conclusion. The conclusion covers, from your research, what were you able to, from the results you obtained in chapter 4, what are your conclusion, or what are your results pointing to. So this is what you try to conclude under the conclusion session. Then after that, the next thing we need to talk about is the contribution to knowledge. Your project must have contribution to knowledge. Without that, it means that it is useless. So contribution to knowledge is very vital. You must state what new thing that your project is adding to an already existing database of knowledge. Then the next thing we look at is recommendation. You will have to make your recommendation, describing what a new user may also do, or what you expect, where you stop and where you want a new user to continue. So after that, we have the referencing. So under the referencing, you can see this is where you will enter the whole list of the materials you cited in chapter 2 or any other part of the work. So you can use the upper style or any other available referencing type method. Here, let's look at this. This is one of the author number 1, author number 2, and author number 3. This is the year of publication. This is the title of the work. This is the title of the work, and it was presented under procedures on aviation conference. So this is the journal or the publisher of this work. This is the city of publication, Los Angeles. Then the year, Los Angeles. Then the year. Then the next thing we have to look at is the appendix section of the work. Under the appendix section, any other thing which you could not, or that cannot be contained in the main work, will be forwarded towards the appendix section. You can always have appendix A, B, or C. So depending on the volume of work you have, like the programming code, the full programming code, your full calculation work, or if there are maps or other things that you cannot put in the main work, put it in the appendix section. So we need to look at the font type. The font type is Times New Roman for most project work, and the font size is 12. Is size 12, and the font spacing is usually 1.5 or 2, especially when you're using a double line spacing. So this is what a brief tip on how a typical project work looks like. So you can see what we have here. So if you have questions, if you have suggestions, you can drop it at the comment section. If this material is valuable to you, or if you are able to benefit from this material, please give us thumbs up. You can also hit the subscribe button if you are yet to do so, and turn on the notification icon in order to receive updates of our new videos. My name is Obona Nande. See you in the next video. Bye.